Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another one of our D&D 5th edition videos. And in this video, what I'm going to be talking about is classes. We're going to be talking about classes in general, all the different classes, what they basically do, and how, but I'm not going to go into each individual detail. I am going to set aside time to do a video for each class, because each class has its own unique what do you want to call it, unique flavor and abilities and things like that, and I want to give each one its own time. But generally right now what I'm going to talk about is all the different classes and how they affect my world and why I allow or disallow certain types of classes. All right, so as you already know, there is a okay, these videos are geared towards the referees, the dungeon masters, to help them level up their campaigns, but it's also geared toward players too. So if you want to watch this and learn a little bit about certain classes or things like that, please feel free to do so. But I'm going to be honest, it's pretty much geared towards dungeon masters or people thinking about becoming dungeon masters. Okay, so even if you're a dungeon master, you still need the player's handbook. You need all books. You need pretty much, as a dungeon master, you have to be the guy that gets all the books. You know, if you've got a friend that's got the player's handbook, you're going to have to keep borrowing it from them, because you need the player's handbook to make some of your villains, some of your more powerful NPCs, you know, things like that. You need to know when the player says, I'm casting magic missile into the darkness, you need to know what he's doing, or can he do that, you know? So you can, this is where the combat rules are at. This is where the leveling rules are at. This is where their abilities are all at. This is the spell list for your monsters. Everything's in the player's handbook. Even though you're the dungeon master, you still need the player's handbook. Okay. Not so much the monster manual, because you can download some monsters. You can use the monsters that are in the modules and things like that. But guess what? You're going to need the monster manual too. Believe me. You, as a dungeon master, you need all the books. You just can't get around that. Okay, so here we go. Let's go to the classes, because we've already talked about my, in the first video, we talked about my development up to this point. And then in the second video, I do believe we talked about the races and what races I allow in my campaign and why. And now we're going to talk about classes. Now, you know already that my campaigns are usually good campaigns. So am I going to allow a fallen paladin in my campaign? No. Am I going to allow a sorcerer in my campaign? No. Am I going to allow a warlock in my campaign? No. Okay, so let's go through the races. I'm sorry, the classes. So I got my player's handbook, and I'm just going to jump past human, gnome, tiefling, half-orc, and all that. Okay, here's the list of races. We got barbarian. That sounds pretty cool. But I think about I think of this as, we'll get to that in a minute. Barbarian, bard, cleric, druid, fighter, monk, paladin, ranger, rogue, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. Okay, now this is something that I don't like. I don't like more classes than necessary. Okay, the reason why I play 5th edition, and you know this, you watched the first video, the reason why I play 5th edition is because it's streamlined, it's simplified, and it's logical. So it makes it easy for me to tell a story so that the players don't have to focus on the rules, they can focus on the story. And that's why I play 5th edition. So when I go to the classes, I don't want a class in my game that breaks my game, goes against what I'm trying to tell as a story, or is just extra. Anything just thrown in just for GP. Okay, so let's talk about the barbarian for a second. What? And I'm going to try to break this down. We're not. Each one of these classes will get its own video. Okay, I will take time and go through each one of these classes and break it down and explain everything. But this is the all classes video, and I want to talk about the barbarian. And we're going to talk about each one, but just shortly. The barbarian. What is that? Now, I want you to think about this. What is a barbarian? It's not a class. It's not a class. It's a philosophy. That's what a barbarian is. It's a non-civilized person. That's all it is, right? So why can't a fighter be a barbarian? Why can't a rogue be a barbarian? Why can't a wizard be a barbarian? They all can be barbarians. So, okay. So what you're trying to say is, but Mr. Everything, the barbarian, he's got like no armor and he's super strong and uses a two-handed axe. Or you can make a fighter with that. I can make a fighter, give him a great sword. Okay, so what differentiates in the game the barbarian from a fighter is that the barbarian gets more hit dice. He has the ability to rage, go berserk. Okay, so, okay, he's not a barbarian, he's a berserker, right? It should be called berserker, not barbarian, because like I was saying, you can have a druid that's a barbarian. That's a misnomer, is what I'm saying. It shouldn't be called that. It should be berserker. But then again, my fighter could be a berserker. He just needs to have the ability to rage. So why don't you have, because each of the classes have, once you reach a certain level, you have a technique or a fighting style or whatever you call it, depending on what class you are. Why don't you take fighter and give it a fighting style that says berserker? That's what I think you should do. So I disagree with having the whole barbarian class. Do I allow it? Yes. Does it break my game? No. So it's just worded differently, and I think that when they designed the game, they could have done it a different way. That's all it is. All right. So bard. Okay, what do we got? What's a bard? A bard's a fighter with abilities to sing. Okay, so not just sing, play musical instruments, very knowledgeable, tell stories. Okay, he casts spells, but he doesn't technically really cast spells. What he does is he influences things through music or story. Okay, so he's not actually technically casting a spell, like I cast a spell on you. No. Have you ever gone to a concert, and you were just in awe of what they were doing on stage? You were like, whoa, guess what? They cast a spell on you, right? I cast a spell on, okay, I can't sing, but it's not really magic. It's just, it affects you in a way that you feel like you've been influenced. He's charming you, whatever. Okay, that's the bard. Could that be a fighter that has the ability to charm? Everything could be a fighter, technically. But no, I approve of giving the bard their own class because there's so many different choices that you can make. Not so much with the barbarian, in my opinion. Okay, backing up. Cleric. The cleric's got like 100 different choices. What is a cleric? A cleric is a priest, okay? And what they do is They worship one of the many gods in Forgotten Realms, or in your D&D game campaign, whatever you got. So without the god standing behind them, metaphorically, they wouldn't have any power. Are clerics casting spells? No. They're calling for divine influence. They're praying and putting their hands on you and healing your wounds and stuff like that. They're not actually doing the healing. The power, they're just a conduit. They're channeling the power from their god into you. Has nothing to do with casting a spell. It's called spell casting. The mechanic is spell casting. We'll get into that. It's not technically spell casting. Okay. Druid. Same thing with druid. The druid is technically a cleric, but of the old faith. Okay, when you say the old faith is worshiping the wilderness. But things that are in the wilderness, like Maliki, or I don't know, I think it's Maliki, but any of the other gods that reside in the wilderness, wouldn't a druid be a priest of them? I don't know, right? Yes, I understand picking a druid, but I think what they're trying to do with druid is say, they really deal with a lot of the plants and animals. Clerics could do that, but clerics are more of your traditional, have a church kind of thing. And a druid is out in the woods. They do basically the same thing. Okay. But they just do it from different gods, or from different, like Mother Nature. Would that be considered a god? In Forgotten Realms, possibly, right? Okay, so then we go to fighter. Fighter is a catch-all. They're the person that actually do the fighting, okay? But then again, if you're in a D&D campaign, you're going through a dungeon or a cavern or a city of bandits or whatever, everybody's fighting. So technically everybody's a fighter, but the fighter class, because that's what they focus on, they do it really well. But they don't do anything else. Okay, so then you go to monk. Okay, now should you allow a monk in your campaign? I thought about this for long and hard, whether or not I should put a monk in my campaign, because monks are kind of broken in a way, but they're also not. Early on they're broken, but later on they don't. You'd think, death touch and all that stuff. That's second edition. In 5th edition, they're really not that broken. I mean, D4 damage, no big deal, right? Does an extra D4 damage, but that is considered his bonus action. So, I mean, the fighter gets like 2 attacks and a bonus attack and extra attack. I mean, fighters can attack a lot more than a monk. And they're using weapons, and the weapons do a lot more damage. Monks have to use monk weapons, so they're actually limited on what they can use to get that bonus attack. But so early on, though, those early 2 attacks really kill a lot of things like kobolds and goblins. But when you start fighting bigger creatures, those double attacks aren't as good. So don't panic when your early level monks are like running the table, because they start off strong, but then they peak real early. So that's my opinion. Now I thought about not allowing them because it doesn't make sense to have some kind of martial artist in a high fantasy world. But then I really kind of did my research on Forgotten Realms, and I realized that the Far East, they do have martial artists. They do have the samurais and the monks and things like that. And because of that, I could see where, and the world is not as big as you think. I mean, it's just a continent, and they have ships that travel around. So I could see where a traveling martial artist / monk would travel to the West Coast and maybe have taught some people. I mean, the world's been around for thousands of years. So yeah, I could see where that might have happened. And I can also see, now, there's another type of monk out there There's the monk that's a religious monk, like Friar Tuck, right? Friar Tuck didn't really use a sword, right? He hit him with a bow staff. He had a staff. Now, he might have kicked people, he might have punched people, right? So you could play it this way. A monk is a monk for a religious order. They're celibate or whatever. They're wearing the robes or the rope belt and all that stuff. And then they've just developed their hand-to-hand abilities because swords are out or out. Okay. Now, in a fantasy world, I know I'm kind of hanging out on a monk. In a fantasy world, this doesn't apply. But in the real medieval history, the normal citizen wasn't allowed to have a sword. If you carried a sword, you had to be a noble, right? You had to have money to be able to carry a sword or be part of some kind of like a military organization. You know, you had to be armed, a man at arms, a man at arms, or something like that. Your average farmer, monk, priest, they didn't carry weapons. They didn't have maces and swords and hammers and things like, no, that was outlawed, right? So that's why you see Friar Tuck not using any kind of sword or anything like that. And but when it comes to a fantasy world, you don't really need to go the Friar Tuck direction because that's your cleric. You need to go towards the martial artist direction, but it could be like a mixture of the two or something. You know, figure it out for yourself. In my world, monks are trained in hand-to-hand, and they have an order for discipline and, you know, a strict discipline and stuff, but it's kind of like a monastic order. I mean, they're kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. Kind of like Kung Fu and his monks, you know, those are the guys that, you know, the guys in the orange or yellow Tibetan monks. That's the kind of monks that I'm thinking of. Not your ninja samurai, you know, who knows what. The guys I'm thinking of are more of the Chinese monks. That's kind of what, I don't know. That's mine. All right. And they all come, the fighting style originated in the East. Okay. So then the next one is Paladin. Okay, I could go on for hours and hours and hours about the Paladin, but I'm not going to. The Paladin is a holy warrior. He's a warrior that strongly believes in his cause. And because of that, he has a religious conviction. And whatever religion he worships, that God bestows power upon him because of his faith is so strong that he gets these abilities. In D&D 5th edition, it says that a paladin does not get his powers from the god, he gets it from within because his faith is so strong. Bullshit. That's not the way it is. That's not the way it is in my world. If you're a paladin, you get your powers like a cleric from your god. You channel your god's power. The god gives you a different variety of abilities because he knows you're not a priest, you're a warrior. Okay, you go out and you defend the church, defend other clerics, and remember, in my world, everybody's good. If you have an evil god and you want to be a paladin, that's fine. That's not a player. That you can have an evil paladin, but he's not a player. He's going to be a monster. He's going to be an opponent. If a paladin, in my world, I'm very strict on paladins. If paladins, because of their faith, has to be so strong and their convictions have to be so strong for that God to bestow any power upon them that they can't falter. when they start faltering, they start losing their abilities. And that's the way I work it. Sometimes I'll strip them of all their abilities and make them a fighter. Okay. Sometimes I'll change their alignment. And when that happens, you know, in the old divisions, you had to be lawful good, you had to have a 17 charisma, and you had to blah, blah, blah. That's not necessary anymore. Okay. Next one, Ranger. Okay. A Ranger is technically a fighter, but he's kind of like a fighter druid. You know, he's a fighter that has a lot of woods knowledge, wilderness, and you can pick a lot of different wilderness. You could be Arctic, you could be desert, you could be woods, you could be grasslands, you could be whatever, right? So, but they get a few extra abilities, and they tend to wear lighter armors, and they tend to use bows because they're hunters, right? They're kind of like hunters, but they're also like trackers, like they'll track somebody to the woods or whatever, and then they're also kind of like animal handlers. I mean, they're very in tune with nature. To me, that's a druid. That's a druid. But do I allow rangers? Sure. Why not? I don't have any problems with rangers. I just think, you know, that a lot of these could be streamlined. A paladin could be a fighter cleric, technically, right? And your druid could technically be a cleric with a wilderness god. A ranger could be a fighter cleric with a wilderness god, basically. You know, the bard and the barbarian could both be fighters with, or the bard's kind of a fighter mage in a way, you know. And then okay, then we go to rogue. Rogue is they reworded it. It used to be called thief. Okay, but thief had negative connotations. Everybody considered thieves to be evil, which technically they are. You start stealing stuff, you're evil. So in one of the editions or another game I used to play, rogues were kind of like fighter thieves, and scouts were thieves. So you had scout because he could break into places, sneak into things. He could pick locks and stuff because he's going in and scouting for his boss or whatever. And a rogue was kind of like your bandit, you know, but they went about it in kind of a bad way. So, but in 5th edition, a rogue is technically a fighter thief. I mean, he's a really good fighter, but he's got all this subterfuge, sneaking abilities, which I'm okay with. Because, like I said, players need scouts, and a rogue is technically a scout, kind of. Okay, and then the last 3 are all magic users. You've got sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. Now, each of these get their abilities from a different source, right? The sorcerer gets his abilities because of the magic inside of his blood. He's got metachlorians or whatever. He's got the magic blood. And then warlocks get their magic because of some other source giving them magical abilities, like a demon or something like that. And then there's wizards, which can manipulate through their words and their actions and their components the magical essence that's floating around them. They can manipulate it and cast spells. Okay, so having said all those, okay, they all are wizards. They just get their powers from a different way, right? So why don't you just have one class called a wizard? And that's what I'm doing. In my game, there's only one spellcaster. Well, there's only one magic user. He's called the wizard. The sorcerer gets his powers from inside his body. Guess what? So does a wizard. The wizard knows what he's doing. He's an arcane mage or whatever. He's get powers from inside his body and he manipulates whatever. So sorcerer, gone. Out the door. Doesn't exist. Okay, warlock. That's an evil cleric. You're getting your powers from a bargain with another entity. You know, like a cleric. He's getting his powers from a bargain with his deity. So a warlock is basically an evil cleric. So that's all it is. Out the door. Players, no. Sorcerer, now, a warlock, let's say, hypothetically, this is kind of the way it wanted to play out as a good character. Maybe you're getting your power from Bahamut, right? Which is the good dragon god, right? So maybe you're getting your power from Bahamut. Guess what? That's a cleric. Okay, but the spell lists are different because the warlock spell list is magic spell lists, and the cleric spell list would be cleric. So basically, you're a cleric with magic spell list. That's why they made that class. But guess what? I don't care. You're a wizard. If you want to cast spells, you're a wizard. If you want to say that Bahamut is how you get your powers, just say it. Just say, hey, I get my power from Bahamut, or whatever. You don't need to have a separate class for you to role play that. Don't allow the classes to tell you how you want to role play. In my game, I allow barbarians, I allow bards, clerics, druids, fighters, monks, paladins, rangers, rogues, and wizards. I don't allow sorcerers and warlocks because I feel like they're just, what's the word I'm looking for? Superfluous? That's a word I don't know how to pronounce. I just think they're extra and you don't need them. Okay? You could technically play a 5th edition game with just a fighter, cleric, wizard, and rogue. You could. That's original D&D right there. These other ones are kind of like prestige classes. They're kind of like, you're a fighter, but once you hit 5th level, you get to become a monk, or you're a fighter, and once you get 5th level, you get to be a paladin, or whatever. So we're not even going into Eldritch Knight and all these other things that are subclasses of your classes. We'll get into that when I go into the individual classes. I think I've said enough about classes, and I think I've kind of blown your mind, because I know I've blown mine. So thanks for watching this video. If you like it, please like it. If you want to subscribe to my channel, do that. I'm going to continue to make these probably on a weekly basis. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I sat down and made like 3 of these all in one sitting. That's why you see me all wearing the same outfit. But I don't know how fast I'm going to upload these. Maybe every couple of days I'm going to upload them. I don't know. Because there's a philosophy out there from some other YouTubers that you should always upload once a week. Once a week. And there's others that will just say, I've filmed 20 videos all in one night. I'm just going to upload them all. Just blow up their channel. And then you just go and you watch them. This is the way I look at it. Both of them are valid, right? I know I'm going off topic here, but if you upload a video every week, you generate excitement. So the viewer says, "Oh, I can't wait for the next video," and they get to talk about it with their buddies all week, and then boom, they watch it, right? But then there's the guys that will want to see all of them, right? Like, man, okay, he's got another video out there. And when I find a channel, it's already, usually they're already like 20 or 30 videos into the series. So I'm watching them 1 through 20 all in, short amount of time. So, because I'm excited to watch the next one. I go next. So where does it fall in? I don't know. I don't want to upload them all in the same night, but I don't want to hold on to a video. Once I've made a video, I want to upload it so you guys get to see it. So chime in on the chat, put it in the comments, if you like the videos uploaded immediately or if you want to wait or spread it out. See, if I spread it out 1 a week, then I'm only getting 52 videos a year, and I know I can probably put like a couple of 100 videos in this because you take every class, you take every race, you take every spell list, you take every monster, you take every combat tactic, weapons combination, all that stuff. I could go for days. And paladins, oh my gosh, I could probably make a whole month's worth of videos on just the paladin. But thanks for watching, and you guys have a great one.